Ben Meyer. Not only is he the co-founder of Nasty Savage, he also co-founded Lowbrow. Join Mark Lewis and R.O.A. for an exclusive interview.
Real rock and roll news. From the legends of rock, you found rockonamerica.live. We're bringing rock and roll to America and beyond. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Imagine the pulse of heavy metal music coursing through your veins. Ben Meyer. Born in the winter of 1963, this American maestro has left an indelible mark on the genre. Co-founder of the thrash metal band Nasty Savage, birthed in the sunny state of Florida in 1983, Meyer's influence in the heavy metal scene is undeniable. With his partner in crime, vocalist Nasty Ronnie Galletti, they forged a path that many would follow. Ben Meyer is co-founder of the bands Nasty Savage and Lowbrow, the latter with Alan West and Gardy, which also featured members of Hellwitch, Agent Steel and Nocturnus. Currently, Ben has made a name for himself as a solo artist, performing throughout Florida with a repertoire of over 500 songs. Join R.O.A. and Mark Lewis for this exclusive interview.
Interview with Ben Meyer from Nasty Savage for the Tampa metal scene history article. Ben, what I want to talk about is how you guys started as Nasty Savage, what got you interested in doing Nasty Savage, any bands you played in before then, what the scene was like when you started, how you guys got big and what it was like and what you saw during the 80s, about how things died and how things are starting to come around now, what you see with some of the younger bands and with you guys, still the impact that you guys took. So when you guys started, what year did you start? I'm also asking questions because I'm writing this article from the perspective of somebody that doesn't know Nasty Savage, doesn't know anything about Tampa. So
that's good. Well, I'd say I started playing seriously about the same time I graduated in 1981.
Okay.
And I originally started playing bass. And I tried out for a hat with some people that lived like a mile away that were looking for a bass player. And they were like real, Kenny and Kelly Thompson, and they were like real cool and gave me a chance because I just barely could play. And they gave me a chance. There's just somebody to jam with, and it was quite, like, wow, just kind of, I knew that's really what I wanted to do. I started playing bass, and they were real easy to work with, just real helpful, and they always just enjoyed just playing. And then a friend of mine had a guitar, and he was like, I bet this guy that could really play a lot better than them. And he had a guitar he said he'd sell me, and so I got a guitar and a bass. I was kind of going back and forth between the two.
What inspired you to play? Like, was there any band in particular or any musician in particular really spurred you on?
The band that really stuck out to me back then was like Black Sabbath.
Okay.
They were like my roots. They still are, actually. They're like one of my favorites. They just had a style that was kind of dark, too low, and they were just, to me, they were like the coolest thing. I mean, I listened to a lot of other stuff, which was more like mainstream metal. It was like, back then, there wasn't much stuff in 81 that I was really aware of. Just like the basic Ted Nugent, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Scorpions. Barely, they were kind of like, I didn't hear much of them back then. I don't know, what year did they get started? I mean,
they started about 78, but I think the first album came out about 79.
I wasn't real familiar with them at that time, but maybe about a year or two later I started other people that were into the more heavier stuff at that time were turning me on to like Venom and Motorhead and Steph, and then Tigers and Pantang, Holocaust.
Wow, the new wave of British heavy metal.
Yeah, exactly. And they started turning me on to that. But actually, you go back even further. When I was just about ready to graduate high school, I was at a concert. I really wanted to be a photographer. That was what I really wanted to be. And then I let this guy on my camera that was at the show. I mean, I brought my camera to the show, and then he just like disappeared. He didn't tell me he broke it. I had to hunt him down the next day, and he ended up trading, since he broke my camera, it was like a brand new Minolta XG1. Since he broke my camera, he ended up saying, hey, I'll trade you my bass for it. That's how I actually got the bass.
Okay.
And then once I was jamming with these guys, I was experimenting, jamming with a few different people. And once I bought the guitar and I had the bass, I realized that the guys out that were like Kenny and Kelly were like, they weren't real serious. I really wanted to make it my life, you know. So I was still jamming with them, but it ended up that I was showing another friend of mine, Fred, like I wanted to play guitar, and I was showing a friend of mine, Fred, how to play the bass a little bit in my spare time, and then I met a guy named Craig Huffman that lived in Brandon. He's like the same age as me, and he wanted to play drums, and he'd come over sometimes. We all would go over there, and I was in with another band, Kenny Kelly, but then when they always wanted to quit early or something, so I'd get Craig over there and Fred, and we started jamming. We played like old Judas Priest songs and some Holocaust. Craig was like the instigator of metal. Like at that time, he knew about Iron Maiden before nobody knew. Like he'd go.
That was back when the Paul Diano days.
He knew about it before they even had an album out. They had some kind of demo tape that was from Europe. That there was like, I can't think of what it was called, but he was telling me about it the other day, where there was like a tape with a variety of different bands, and it had like rehearsals of Iron Maiden. Okay. I can't think of what it was called, but it had like a variety of all the new up and coming bands, and he had a copy of it before anybody else did. He was wearing like an Iron Maiden shirt, like in like maybe like around 81, and nobody had Iron Maiden shit. And people said, "Who's that?" I never heard of him. Then like 2 or 3 years later, he sees them wearing an Iron Maiden shirt, like an idiot. But he was really up. He kind of turned me on to all the stuff like Plasmatic, Holocaust, Motorhead, Tigers and Pantane, all the Venom, Raven. He turned me on to all the underground stuff. And then after that, me and him and Fred were jamming like kind of on a regular basis, to where like even if the other guys didn't want to show up, they were cool about letting us jam at that house, which was like more like a party house, where like sometimes we would jam with I think that band we were doing was actually called Lost Cause. Okay. So all we would do is just go there and drink beer all night after work and just jam, just have fun, do it for fun. And then like sometimes we would jam with Craig and Fred also. And eventually it got down to the point where it was just me, Craig, and Fred, just the ones that were real serious about it. We started going to the next level and learning a lot of songs, started putting together some originals, and there's this one girl that used to come over there. She had a real good voice. Her name was Jerry Lynn, and she sang with us. At that time, we got invited to play some like keg parties. Back then, boy, Brandon, you could play a keg party, there'd be like 400 or 500 people there. It was great. We would just bring our stuff out in the field, and there'd be like headlights. At that time, we changed the name to Nightmare. Okay. And some of the songs, we would play like Holocaust. We would play like some Judas Priest, Scorpions, and Iron Maiden. I think we even played Iron Maiden. And then we played a few of our own. And that girl kind of didn't last too long. We played some shows without her. But ended up that Craig introduced me to Ronnie, and Ronnie said, "Hey, I can do it." For a while there, he kept coming out, and he showed a real interest in it. This is like around...
You're talking about Nasty, right?
Yeah, Nasty Ronnie. He came out, and we ended up getting him, and he said, "Hey, let's change the name to Nasty Savage," and we all said, "All right, let's do that."
Well, how did he come up with that idea for Nasty Savage with that?
I don't know, he just said, "Hey, come on out here," after we were done practicing. He said, "What do you think of the name Nasty Savage?" And we all just said, "Yeah." Well, I never was like blown away by it at that time, but I just, all right, I just kind of went along with it. Like, all right, let's do it. Craig says, yeah, let's do it. And we were just a 4-piece at that time. And ended up that we practiced at this one house. These people lived practice at their house, not that original house, but people even practice there a little bit, but we went from different people's houses, and it ended up being like a party there every time. It was like a house that was more like a party, but we did practice, and we got a lot accomplished. We wrote a few songs. And
well, what time was that? About what year is that from?
I'd say 82, 83. Okay. Between 82 and 83, we wrote like maybe about 12, 13 songs, and put a lot together, and we practiced all the time. Around that time, Craig was having some problems, and he had played like maybe probably about 6, 7 shows that were like parties. We could play a party back then and bring 300, 400, 500 people. That's about the time I started hearing about Avatar. I was turning into Avatar about that time. And it's probably about 80.
Did you guys ever play with them?
Yeah, we played together several times. We played at the London Victory Club with them, and I went to see them play this one show in Clearwater. It was like at this mall, and they were like doing real well at that time. They were probably like, them and this other guy called Argus was around at that time. Okay. It was us, them, and Argus that were kind of like, but they were been around. They were a little bit older than us. Right. They'd been around a little bit longer, not much. And then it ended up that ended up that Craig left the band. I don't know, it's just problems among ourselves. And
yeah, I'm not putting any negative stuff on her.
Oh yeah, but Craig just left basically, and then we ended up we knew Curtis. That's Curtis Beeson was like a local band that was, and he had like a PA, killer drum set. Craig was kind of going through some hard times, and we got Curtis. At that time, we said, "Oh, if we're gonna trade a drummer, we must have had another guitarist to make it sound more intricate and heavy." So at that time, we put all the songs we had together. The new guy was Dave Austin, and he wrote a bunch of songs with us. And within maybe 6 months, we put together a demo tape. We all pitched in. On a demo tape, and we mailed it to places like Metal Forces and different magazines. And we got write-ups at that time, and it was like, wow, we were like one of the first doing it. We were kind of like wearing spikes, leather, all kinds of like denim jackets and leather and studs, and we were coming out, like, wow, people were, I didn't see much, wasn't much band doing nothing like that at that time. This was like 83, they were writing this up in Metal Forces, and then we did a demo tape.
What was Metal Forces? Is that a local magazine?
That was a big magazine in Europe.
Oh, was it?
It was like the main thing back then. Okay. That was kind of like it was like the main one.
So we had Circus magazine out there was the big one.
It wasn't quite as big as, I can't think of what was around back then.
We have Kerrang out now too.
It was like, it was the next thing below Kerrang. It was a pretty damn popular magazine, and they did like a big write-up on us, and Ryan was getting a lot of letters. He was really good at promoting and generating.
About what time frame was this?
1983.
Okay.
He was generating a buzz in late 83.
What was it like playing in Tampa though? What was going on here specifically?
Back then, man, we played this club called Ruby's, and man, we could. We were playing keg parties too. Keg parties were like the best thing for us. We charged like $1 to get into this one, just $1. Bring your own booze and charge $1. We walked out there with like $400, which was like, who the hell's gonna argue with a fucking dollar? But it was, we could bring like a shitload of people. We were probably the biggest band that was, like young and up and coming. Avatar was more like the grown-up crowd that had to go to the bar at that time. We were still a little bit just getting out of high school and bringing a lot of that crowd. I think we could bring just as much as them at that time. And then good throughout the whole world. Back then, there wasn't many bands out that had demo tapes out. Now it's like so oversaturated that it's like everybody and their brothers in a band where it's like, man, it's so hard to even bring 50 people nowadays into a local band in Tampa Bay where even 50 people is pretty good nowadays. But back then, if you bring 400 or 500, man, it's like, man, you got national acts that can't even bring that nowadays. And then it was just so much different. And what the people that were all our audience all ended up being in bands, which was like you're an influence on a lot of people, which was kind of cool. And I mean, people I remember seeing at their shows like Chuck and Death. He was hanging out back then, and then the guys in Atheists were like big fans, and Obituaries like big fans, and
you guys kind of helped for a lot of the bands that kind of helped create the metal.
We were one of the first doing anything that was extreme and super heavy in the Bay Area, except for maybe Avatar, the only one were Oregon. But we were like the first to be like do it. I think we were a little more extreme than something like that.
You were a heavier sound than South Head, a little bit more, and I like them. They're great.
Oh yeah,
but they were a little bit more on the classically influenced side.
Right.
But you guys are more like like the Motorhead, the Venom, the Anthrax, real heavy.
It's a little bit different of a style, but you can't say which one's better. You're doing your thing, and
they're just different styles.
But they started out, like a lot of our crowd could appreciate theirs, and theirs could appreciate ours. But it was a little bit different. But
did you guys ever really play the clubs? You said you played the clubs down in the keg parties. What was it like playing in the clubs down here? What was the scene like down here when you were doing that?
There was times where we could bring 500 people around here. Like, it was still really good for us. We could do real well at that time in the early 80s.
Was there a real big buzz for heavy metal going down in the clubs and stuff?
Oh yeah, there very was. Wasn't that many clubs accepting it? They were more wanting to hear rock and roll. It was kind of like
a Skinner Outlaw type of thing.
They were wanting to hear Skinner Outlaw, AC/DC, maybe heavy as Judas Priest. They wanted to hear
they wanted to hear hard rock, not really metal.
It was hard to convince some places to give it a chance. And we would play on a Sunday night at this one bar called Ruby's.
Okay.
And we could play at club. And on a Sunday night, in a bar, ain't taking much risk. And it's not like their key night. They don't want to give up the weekend. They're afraid of it. But that was a club that would allow us to do a Sunday night. On a Sunday night, we brought like 350 people. This is like maybe 84 on a Sunday night.
Right.
And this guy's like, wow, y'all can come back anytime. And we played up there a lot of times. There was one year, right around, I can't remember what year it was, maybe 87, or there was this hurricane. That was just staying still right in the bay. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I was up in Detroit.
That was like around 86, 87. We played, and we had a show booked that same day. Everybody's saying, man, are we going to play tonight? Or people are calling, and that hurricane just sat there for like a day or two, just didn't move at all. And like if it would have moved, it could have killed a lot of people. It wasn't super powerful, but it was a hurricane.
Right.
I mean, you don't want to play games with them.
Right.
But the hurricane was there, and it ended up that we didn't know if we should play or cancel the show, and we ended up saying, let's go for it. I mean, our crowd's into destruction and mayhem. It's a fucking hurricane ain't gonna stop them.
Right.
So we played the same night as the hurricane. It ended up being like the best attendance we ever had. Like that night.
Remember how many people they had about?
I mean, for Ruby's, it was. I mean, not our best attendance of all time, but like for that club it was over like 400 people.
Was that pretty much the capacity then?
It held about 200.
Okay, so it's over.
Just like a brass mug.
Right, got
maybe a little bit bigger. Man, it was like the same fucking night as a hurricane. It was crazy. But then we ended up, we got asked to be on one album called Iron Tyrants, and they used one of our songs up for demo on that. And then Metal Blade asked us if we wanted to be on the Metal Massacre #6.
Right.
And we got asked to do that. And they used us on XXX on that, and that was off our demo tape. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, Metal Blade said, "Are you interested in doing an album?" And we ended up shortly after that signing the album. They offered us a 5-year deal, and we didn't want a 5-year deal. We thought that we could really do real well to where we just would sign a 1-album, 1-year deal, and which I think was a mistake, because if we would have signed a 5-year deal, like if you got something that you're wanting to promote, we would have signed a 5-year deal, they would have put a lot more promotion into us, knowing that they have us a little more long term than a 1-year deal. You ain't gonna put a lot of money into a band you only got ties for 1 year, and I think that was a mistake in our past.
What year was that?
1984 we signed we signed with Metal Blade 1984.
That's your graduate from high school.
Oh yeah. So we recorded the album in '84, and we had the thing done. It took probably 4 or 5 months for that thing to come out. Everybody was like, "When's it gonna be out? When's it gonna be out?" Everybody was like, and finally came out, and we did some shows with Hallows Eve. We got to open up for Slayer. We got to open up for
was that down in Tampa?
No, that was in New York in Lemurs. That was incredible. And we got to play in one of the most underground classic shows of all time called World War III. And it was with Celtic Frost, Boy Bob, Possessed, and Destruction.
Oh man.
And it was incredible. There were about 3,500 people at that show. And it was like, I didn't realize like in Canada, like the beer's a lot stronger there.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize that. It was like, I got shit-faced after the show. Thinking I had the time of my life back in those days.
What was the reaction to you guys down here with when you guys really broke out? You're playing with Slayer, you're playing with Boy Bob and Celtic Frost and all that.
Wow, all the people that were at our show were like, wow, man, that's great. It was an incredible experience. I can't never forget it the rest of my life. We increased our attendance down here. The albums were selling good. We were getting offered a lot of shows. I think at that time we were a little bit too demanding on what we got per show, and how much money. And we could have got a lot more shows if we would have just said, okay, we'll work for 100% of the door, whatever the take is. But we would have not limited ourselves to one set price, which I thought was a little bit overpriced. We could have been playing every night of the week. And that's where some of these newer bands were doing that, like Death and Obituary. They're just playing for whatever they could get. Playing every night in a different city, every night around the U.S. and creating a buzz for themselves, which we weren't doing enough of. I mean, we might have played maybe, I'd say, on an average, maybe 25 shows a year, which ain't enough. But, Obituary and them at that time were playing 3-4 months a year. And that's what you really got to do. You got to go out there and hustle and do every country and play for whatever somebody's going to give you and just try to make ends meet, and then maybe that'll sell a lot of albums and it'll create a buzz. And, I think that's part of our demise. Where it never got to the point where we could survive off the band. Never got to that point. We could make enough money to go out on the road, but it wasn't paying our bills back home. I think that was a disappointing factor. It's like most people get a job and those jobs don't want to hear, hey, I'm leaving for
Europe for 3 months.
I'm leaving for Europe for 3 months, or even they don't even want to hear you're leaving for 3 weeks.
Right.
Most average jobs, they hear that. I mean, say you work your way up. Back then, $10 an hour was a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And even now it ain't that bad. But back then, $10 an hour. See, you worked up to maybe $9, $10 an hour at a job, doing construction or whatever, and you go on to. You're there for a year because the band ain't doing much for a year. Maybe it's doing recording or something like that. And then you work your way up, and then you got to go, and you know that no matter what, you're going. And then when you come back, you don't have a job no more. So it's like you gotta make a lot of sacrifices being a musician. I've made sacrifices my whole life, and it's like I finally found a job that worked good with it in 1990, but until then, well, I couldn't figure out what the right trade was. But you gotta find a trade where you can, where you can get up and go if you have to. The courier work always seemed to be good for that. I found it to be later in life. I didn't start doing that until like 1990. But
to get back to the thing, what was it like? The UK guys really came in and really did well. You do it play over in Europe and that. But what was your memories of what like the scene was like? How did it really build? What point did it really start to fade out a little bit? Because from what I've heard, goth killed it about 2000, and it's been recently coming back. But it kind of, unlike a lot of in America, when Nirvana came in about 93 or Smell Like Teen Spirit, for a lot of bands that killed them. That killed the rock scene in a lot of ways. A lot of commercial radio fell away, and all changing went to goth. And in a lot of sense, when I go out to the club up in Detroit or somewhere or Chicago, the metal scene is basically gone. And now it seems like the last years it's started to come back a little bit. Down here in Florida, it's coming back and it's really starting to thrive again. To me, it seems like it's like 1983, 84 for the heavy metal scene.
I wouldn't say that. Nowhere near as good. No? I can't. I mean, I was there in 83, 84. It was killer. Everybody strived. They loved it. Now it's like you're lucky to find somebody into it. I mean, there are some people. There's a select few that really like it in the Hill Bay area. Maybe now there's some new generations that like it, but it ain't near as good as it was.
Well, when do you think you hit its height?
I think around 1980. 88, 89, 90. We did it till like 1990, where we were still working and putting out albums. We did like 60 shows with DRI at that time. Okay. They're more like a punk band. Right. We weren't like the perfect band to play with them, but it taught me a lot as a musician. Like, wow. I mean, we did 60 shows in a row with those guys, and it was like, wow, we played all these different cities. It actually made me a better player. I mean, most of that crowd was there for DRI. They were a band that could bring at that time 1,000 people a night. Right. They were selling $10,000 worth of fucking merchandise a night. No good. And they could pack a fucking house. I mean, we were selling maybe 5, 6, 700. They were 10 times as much, if not more. Right. I mean, they could pack a fucking house, and it just showed me like, wow, they were so professional about it, and it was cool to have the opportunity to do something with them. And it's taught me that, like most of the shows that we had always done, we were like, wow, great show. I mean, I can learn more from somebody that fucking hates us. Right. Somebody that despises us. I can learn from that person. Why do you? I can learn more from that than somebody saying, oh man, great show. Glad, it's like somebody that says, wow, great show. I mean, it's great to hear that, but it's like, I want to know why people that don't like us like us. It ended up that made like a man out of me for musically, because like there were people sometimes that loved us, and there were people that hated us. I mean, there were people spitting at us sometimes, people shooting birds, people sitting down because they didn't like us. I mean, it made me like a better player. I don't care as long as they're in there watching. Right. I mean, they pay their admission. They can do whatever they want as long as they ain't pulling a gun for them. Like what's happened with Dimebag Darrell. Like, God damn. I mean, they pay their admission. They're entitled to have their thoughts. Right.
But how do you see this different with the band? Because I mean, you've been out a couple times where I've been out there. I mean, what's your impression of like what the guys are now playing in the band compared to what it was back when you were playing back in the 80s down here?
Well, that's a good question. It's a lot different, man. It's not the same.
How's it different?
It's hard to, some of the things you just can't define.
Just put it in the best words you can put it.
It's just like a lot of the new bands. I don't really like a lot of the new bands. It's just like they're all trying to copy something that's already been done. I mean, there's so many different styles of music, or even just metal. Right. Like the death metal, the black metal, the goth metal, the punk metal, it's like it's all extreme to me. I don't give a shit. Just go out there and do what you believe. I like some bands just go out there and does what they believe and don't give a shit. They don't write their stuff to sound like Korn or try to sound like somebody else. They gotta invent your own sound. There's nobody out there that I've heard that lately. I mean, there are some, but in general, like a lot of the younger bands are just copycats of somebody else. You gotta be the originator, the one that invents something. The only bands that are really surviving and doing real good in the bigger industry are like Slayer, like their band has been doing it for a long time, and there ain't gonna be too many more Slayers coming out. So it's all been done.
You don't see much of really anything coming out of here, really. What's the vibe when you go, like we at the show you did, what's the vibe of when you might have been some other places around town too, what's the vibe that you get about how things are now? Because apparently, when you told me, it was like booming. You started out small, you did kick parties, you do some clubs, and things started growing and started really booming.
I mean, back then you could pass out 50 flyers. This is an early. I passed out 50 flyers for a Nasty Savage show. There's 400 people there. Okay. Everybody would. The word of mouth was so enthusiastic, and they just loved it. They believed it, and they just craved it. And it's like, now it's just like, it doesn't seem like nobody supports it. It's just,
I think a lot of what it is guys are older, or maybe they've forgotten, they get married, they have kids, they don't think about it anymore. Maybe some of them maybe grown out of it, per se.
Exactly. People have kids, or DUIs.
Right.
A lot of our fans are dead, to be honest. I know, like, I watched the video and I saw like 10 people I knew at one of our shows are all dead. Like, I don't know, I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, it's like 20 years ago, but man, people get in car accidents, they do stupid things, drug overdose seems to be the number one thing. Okay. But, it's just like, I always try to keep a good balance on, like, just have a good time, but know when not to, and try to keep going. I want to be out there for as long as I possibly can.
Let me ask you a final question. You guys have been through a lot of stuff, and really what I think are probably one of the more if not one of the most underrated heavy metal bands out there. Because you're really solid. The new album you did that review, I think is really solid. It's the album that should propel you guys. If this guy does the album, is there plans to do another album if this album doesn't really hit, or what's the plans after this, considering however this album goes? What are you guys planning on doing considering this? And what's the support for it down here? What feedback do you get from it?
I mean, all the response I've gotten has been tremendous, but it's been a great response. It's just, I don't know what the future holds. I guess it's up to the band. It ain't just up to me.
Right.
I haven't seen enough enthusiasm. I mean, everybody that has the album says, I love it, but it ain't like it's selling off the shelves.
Right.
I mean, it ain't selling like, I think the whole computer, we were doing this stuff way before the computer. I think everybody that wants them just copies it, and they get it off these free sites, and it just don't sell. I mean, we could sell 30,000, 40,000 copies on each release. Right. And sure, we're lucky if we sell 30% of that, 30%. Something like that. It's like, we'd be lucky if we sell 30% of what we used to sell. So it's like, I think either that if people are grown up, forgot, dead, or they just don't know about us, or they need to go out there and support it, which I'd like to see happen.
Do you have any plans to go out and tour again?
Not at this moment. We gotta have to play the Bang Your Head Fest in Europe.
Are you guys going to do that?
Looks like that's going to happen.
Okay.
And possibly the Classic Metal Fest in like several months from now, like in May in Chicago.
So you guys are going to do more like Twisted Sisters, where they're just kind of really doing bass per se. They're not doing the tours because they have also many commitments and stuff. They can't tour anymore.
Right.
They can't do a full tour. They're just playing one out.
Better something than nothing. I see what you're saying. But we were doing like we did all the metal fest. The guy Jack Koshik did all like the Milwaukee Metal Fest and New Jersey Metal Fest, and one in St. Pete he did there with John Lehman and a bunch of different bands. We played all three of those. Those are a good way to showcase.
Now, when was that? Just recently?
Yeah, probably the last three. It went on about the last 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
Obituary played one. Okay. It was And it showed me like, wow, the scene just ain't as good as it used to be.
So, I mean, even down here, like in St. Peter,
I mean, they had all the fucking killer acts. You got John Oliva, Nasty Savage, Deicide, Jack Panzer, Obituary, all these bands, and you ain't even got 500 people.
What would have probably done that in the 80s? I mean, you had 20, 30, 40,000 people out there?
I mean, not that many, but you're looking at 8,000, 10,000, I would think, for all those fucking bands. And it's like, man, it just showed me, like, where are all the fuckers? And I don't think the thing was promoted near as good as it should have been, but still, people knew about it, and it was just, man, not one of the shows that we did with all these killer acts like Raven and M.O.D., Billy Milana.
I've heard that, like, in Florida, promotion's a big problem. The promoters, it's a big problem. That's why a lot of the acts, now they're starting to come down here, but they don't always seem to play Florida. They kind of bypass it because it seems like that's a problem, too.
Well, you think about it like if you're in on tour and you're in the middle of the U.S., you want to try to focus on like a circle of Florida that takes you below it. And there's nowhere to go south of it except Miami. But once you're in Miami, you ain't going no further south as far as like anywhere decent to tour.
Cuba was in there.
Yeah, but that's why they don't want to, you know what I'm saying? It's like a dead end, going down a dead end street. That's one reason, but I think Florida still has people that are hungry for it, but it just ain't like it used to be.
More of a grassroots thing.
I mean, I would, and there's just a select few that go to it, but that's not saying that it can't pick up. I mean,
what's your view of it? Do you think it, and this is how I'm going to end this, do you think it could ever possibly get good, or are you optimistic about it? Hopefully it'll get good?
Definitely hope. I hope it would.
Yeah.
But I really can't predict it. You know, I hope it does. But honestly, I don't know.
What have you heard from the other guys in the band? What do they think? Did they say, like Nasty, Ronnie, or anybody else, what have they kind of said about what their vibe is when you guys talked about stuff?
Well, I mean, this thing is good. It ain't like it was in the 80s. I mean, especially for us, because people remember us back then, but the new crowd don't know who the hell we are. But there are some that read up and learn about it on the internet side. But, I mean, we all want it to be better, but you just can't magically get the people to pay admission and go to the shows. I don't know what to do to get that to happen, but I feel like we're a little bit forgotten, but I don't, the true people know and respect. I mean, especially in Europe, we're not forgotten there. I mean, the U.S.
Nobody's forgotten. John Levis is one thing let's see my final comment or everything. John Levis made a comment that he thinks the reason why, so I asked him, why do you think it's so different over there? And he says, I think it's different because, and maybe you might agree with this, he said it's different here because there's such immediateness over here. Everything is so exposed. Where over there in Europe, you'll have a station that plays with like top 40, then they'll go into like heavy metal, and then they might play blues later on the day, but all on the same station. So they're like starved for it over there, and they're not as exposed to it.
Oh, okay, that's a good. Yeah, my God, you got every possible avenue for different styles around here, and there's so many different shows coming through to where people only have so much money.
Right.
And
it used to be. I remember an Anthrax show. I went to see. Well, I was giving an example. I went to see a Ronnie James Jr. stuff cost me $16 general admission tickets just to get on cheaper. Now that would be like a $40, $50 concert or more. Stones never played for $300 back in the early 80s.
Hell no. Man, I don't remember paying more than about ever $20.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even remember paying that much. I thought, like, when I was growing up, concerts were like, well, the most you'd pay is 10.
Generally, yeah, general admission. You remember general admission?
Yeah.
You get like one person. You got right on
$10. Yeah. Like, God damn, nowadays it's expensive.
Well, I'm gonna end this. I appreciate everything.
So the bars did want you to play back then. They always give you these fucked up nights, like a Tuesday at 1 in the morning or something. But so we say fuck that and play like cake parties on a Saturday. Not everybody can do it. you know, like, some people want to go out on a Saturday night or a Friday night, but not on a Tuesday at the London Victory Club. That's when we got to play with, like, girls' school. Remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
We played with girls' school on a Tuesday night, and that was fun. But, yeah, just, all the, like the bars when they would never let metal come in on a Saturday night back then. Nowadays it's a little different. Though, as long as you're a band that's willing to play and bring some people, they'll let you play every night.
Right.
So I think right now the bars are hungry for bands that are going to bring some people, no matter what. You can bring people no matter what. They don't care what you sound like.
Right. When did you see the bars start becoming more acceptable stuff? Like 85, 86, 87 or something, where they started really accepting metal more nights of the week and stuff? It was always kind of like that.
Well, no, not always. It started definitely being more acceptable in, like, I think it's from about 87, 88. It started getting to where I was even booking some shows, you know, helping other bands book shows.
Right.
But I got, like, Death and Atheist and a lot of different bands like that. But they showed out some of their first shows.
Right.
And at this one place called the Sunset Club.
Okay.
But definitely it was like it was definitely hard to get in the club, so we just did it ourselves.
Right. That's why I did a lot of the keg parties and stuff.
Yeah, but people would invite us, and we'd play keg parties, and those were the best. Everybody would go, like all the. Nowadays you couldn't get away with that shit. Boy, I tell you, there'd be like a lot of underage drinking.
Yeah.
And all kinds of wild shit going on. And nowadays, boy, they wouldn't put up with that. But back then, they were a little more primitive. It wasn't as strict on things like that. Boy, nowadays you couldn't get away with it.
Right.
You can try. But they're a lot more strict with it now, where you can go to the owner of the house and go to jail.
Right.
For treating the minors for each person drinking, man, it's crazy.